and that's the Cronulla Sharks. And they got able to finish second in the regular season. They got that home final. They're probably still just short. They weren't able to get the job done in a very close affair with the Cowboys. And then it sort of went downhill for them the next week as well, and we'll bundle it out in straight sets. Now, for mine, I feel like that's a sort of a slight preview into this year. And I say that in terms of, I've got no doubt they've got some quality players, but I felt like once they got to the real hard sides, and that was evident in the final series, they just weren't quite there when they needed to be against some of those bigger teams. And I feel like this year's draw hasn't been as kind to them, so they're versing more of those teams more regularly. They had the occasional double against some of those top four teams and things like that. So for mine, I'm a little bit concerned with the Sharks. I know that they've got, as I said, they do have quality, especially in the back line and things like that, but I can see them slipping just. What about you, Luke? Where are you at with the Sharks?
I was probably really in line with your thoughts about before preseason. Now it's just preseason.
Yeah.
But I think when I just do the old comparison games to the others and think about a few things, and depth is a huge one for me, and they just look like they're on the same page. And I do think a lot of their players are just trending upwards. I think, look, the lights, you've got the old farts there, like Wade Graham, and big respect to Wade Graham, and you had Fafita who retired and all them, but a lot of them guys are going to be peaking, and I just think they've got the depth to cover injuries, and I think they are just in a really good position. The thing that, like we've talked about before, about when one team needs to drop out of the 8, the other team has to do, and it always happens each year. You never see the same 8 sides doing it. And I was trying to, for a long time, I thought, well, the logic is either one of the cows of the Sharks is going to have a fall. Not a fall out of the 8, but just notable. I just think those teams are both going to be, look, we're not going to do it, so you're going to do it? No, we're not going to do it. Yeah. So I think they're both going to make a slight adjustment this year. And at the end of the day, my biggest thing is, I think Nico Hines is going to be even better, which is scary. Maybe he doesn't hold the same amount of Dalian points. Well, I'll be very surprised. I think that was just, but at the end of the day, it was his first full season as halfback. It's just crazy to see. I think Blake Brayley is one of the more underrated hookers in the game, if not the most underrated hooker in the game. Royce Hunt, you've got the guy, Oregon Confusi coming in. Teague Wilton, I think he's won over a lot of fans. And I'm just a huge Ronaldo Militao fan. I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about him and Brian To'o as the best wingers in the comp. I actually consider Ronaldo just below Josh Adokar. I think they're going to be my minor premiers.
Yeah, wow.
That's my prediction. Yeah, and I think their schedule is favourable. I think they also don't get as gutted out in terms of Origin as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge. When we talk about regular season wins, and you brought up a good point about the tough teams, that's why I'm not saying they're going to be premiers, but I think when it comes to, just winning those games to get them there, I think they'll do quite well. But I do share your concerns, though.
Yeah, well, I think the big thing for the Sharks, and it's been their best recruitment for probably 5 or so years, was the signing of Fitzgibbon as a coach. So I feel like he's just such a great fit for that club at the moment, and they've extended him now for another, I think it's 6 years or something, and I don't blame him for doing that. Normally you'd probably meet that with some criticism, but I can understand why they've done that. And I know you mentioned the depth thing, and I do agree to a certain extent they have some good depth, especially in the forwards. I'm a bit worried when it comes to the likes of fullback and that position, where if Kennedy goes down, which he did do last year, they've lost Luke Metcalf and Lachlan Miller late as well. And I felt like that's now a bit of pressure on Kennedy to make sure he sort of is there, because I feel like if he does go down, unfortunately, there's going to be a bit of a gap and even more pressure than on Nico Hines to step up. And I'm a massive Hines fan. I know when I put out a couple last week the top 5 for halfbacks for our page, I put him at 4, and I got a bit of flack for that because he's coming off a Dalian year. But my reasonings for that at the time was it's only been 1 year where he's been able to do that. I'd have no doubt Nico Hines is going to be a great player moving forward. I just want to see it again this year. And then if I see that again this year, he's going to be in the top 2 for sure. And that's
who did you have above him? Just curious.
I had Cleary, I had Moses, and then I had Jerome Hughes as well. So I just felt like all three have done that for a little bit longer and a bit more consistently. And that's no fault of Hines. He's just been behind a lot of players at the Storm, but he's now got his chance to come out and do it. I feel like he's the right man, but he just needs to get more of that big game experience, I feel. I think that's what really makes those top halfbacks.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Cool. And I think the fullback point is really good because even when they shifted Hines to fullback last year, I remember it just wasn't, it just changed their whole team construction. I think it might have been against a lower team, maybe the Broncos. And it's just crazy how much just one little adjustment
can change.
Can change how your team fires. But I'm excited about Craig Fitzgibbon as a coach as well. You got a lot. He's one of those guys that got a lot of reps in it. You've seen the same with Cameron Ciraldo as well. But so far so good for and I always forget he's in the team. But Kevin McInnes, like, there's not many better bench players in the comp. To be fair, and
still a gap.
And I think in a team like this, you need your McInneses, you need your Fanukins, you need your Toby Rudolphs as well. Yeah, just every time I think, they could be that slider. Yeah, I think minor premiers.
The big call, but I'm sure Cronulla fans out there listening will be ecstatic by that. So.